Amelia Banks stepped out of the subway station, the rush hour crowd pressing around her, and adjusted the strap of her modest leather bag. The morning had been a scramble, delays on the train and a sudden downpour that left her coat damp and clinging. Her simple navy suit, slightly wrinkled from being hastily folded in the bag, felt incongruous as she approached the towering glass building housing Whitman and Associates, one of the city's premier law firms. Inside, the marble floors gleamed, reflecting the bright morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Sharp-suited lawyers and polished assistants moved with purpose, their conversations hushed but urgent. Amelia paused briefly in the lavish lobby, noticing how heads subtly turned her way. She caught the curious glances, some narrowing their eyes, others exchanging whispered comments. Her understated appearance, a stark contrast to the crisp, designer attire of those around her, made her stand out in an unwelcome way. Mark Heller, a junior associate with a knack for sharp wit and a reputation for arrogance, spotted Amelia as she checked in at the reception desk. With an exaggerated smirk, he approached and, without hesitation, addressed her. "Hey, looks like we've got a new clerk. Could you bring some coffee to the conference room?" "It's for the big shots preparing for the meeting," he said, voice dripping with condescension. He glanced pointedly at her slightly rumpled jacket before adding, "You might want to consider a dress code refresher. This isn't exactly a casual cafe." Amelia looked up, meeting his gaze steadily but said nothing more than, "Right away," her voice even and neutral. Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked briskly toward the elevators, leaving a trail of murmurs rippling behind her. Amelia's footsteps echoed softly on the polished marble as she walked past the rows of glass offices and gleaming reception desks, her calm demeanor unshaken by Mark Heller's earlier condescension. She had no intention of fetching coffee, and certainly no time to indulge snide remarks. Instead, she moved purposefully toward the Human Resources Department, just as she had been instructed in the email sent late last night. The corridor narrowed as she turned a corner, moving away from the bright, bustling lobby into a quieter wing of the firm. The hum of printers and muted typing filled the air. Finally, Amelia reached the modest HR office, where a door was slightly ajar, revealing a woman looking up from her desk and smiling warmly. "Ms. Banks, welcome," said the HR director, Helen Crawford, standing to extend a hand. Helen's voice was sincere, and her eyes reflected genuine enthusiasm. "We've been expecting you. Please come in." Amelia entered the office, closing the door softly behind her. The room was furnished simply, with a couple of large filing cabinets and framed photos of seminars and firm events decorating the walls. Helen gestured toward a comfortable chair across her desk. "Please, have a seat. I'll get right to it. We're thrilled to have you lead our corporate law division. Your name came highly recommended, especially your work on the Carmichael merger last year." Amelia nodded, settling into the chair. "Thank you, Helen. I'm looking forward to getting started." Helen's smile widened. "You'll be overseeing a team of 25 lawyers, many of whom are eager but inexperienced in complex mergers and acquisitions. Your record of transforming teams and winning significant cases is exactly what we need." Outside the office, Mark Heller stood near the coffee machine, chatting with a few junior associates. His laughter was loud, his swagger evident as he recounted his encounter with the new girl. "You should have seen it. It was like dealing with someone completely lost. Told her to bring coffee, and she didn't even argue. I mean, come on, who starts as lead counsel looking like that?" he said with a chuckle, shaking his head as if sharing a private joke. One of the associates, a woman named Jessica, glanced toward the HR office suspiciously. "Are you sure she's just some clerk? Seems odd that she didn't correct you." "Nah," Mark replied confidently. "She's probably one of those temp hires. Let's face it, this place only hires the sharpest." Someone with that ratty jacket wouldn't last 5 minutes without a mentor. Meanwhile, inside the HR office, Helen continued. Ms. Banks, your reputation precedes you. We sent you the orientation materials, but I imagine you don't need the basics. Your arrival stirred quite a bit of curiosity. Appearances don't match expectations, but your accomplishments speak volumes. Amelia smiled briefly. I'm aware. I made an effort to travel light this morning, came straight from court. The city's transit was a nightmare, so practicality won today over presentation. I believe how people perform and treat others is more telling than dress. Helen nodded in agreement. Exactly. That's something we value here. We're a firm built on merit, though sometimes first impressions can obscure that. Your perspective will surely help reshape the culture. As Elias spoke, Amelia glanced briefly at the clock. The main conference room was filling with chatter from lawyers preparing for the day's staff meeting where the senior partners would formally announce the new leadership. She stood and collected her folder neatly. Outside, Mark's smirk faded slightly as he noticed a few colleagues looking her way, whispering behind their hands, their expressions a mix of curiosity and doubt. Back in the HR office, Helen lowered her voice. By the way, Mark Heller has quite a reputation for his less than hospitable greetings. I hope that doesn't trouble you. Amelia's eyes narrowed just a touch, but her voice remained steady. I expect professional conduct. I won't let petty attitudes distract me. Helen smiled. Good. As you know, leadership here means setting the tone. We all look forward to seeing the impact you'll have. Exiting the HR offices, Amelia moved toward the main conference hall, passing desks and meeting rooms filled with attorneys tossing last-minute questions and notes back and forth. Whispers followed her, a mixture of rumors, speculation, and polite acknowledgement. Mark caught sight of her again and muttered under his breath, "Let's see how long this lead counsel lasts." But his voice carried less certainty than before. Amelia's calm confidence seemed to ripple outward, quietly unsettling the existing hierarchy. She moved with purpose, aware that her work would prove louder than words. The large conference room hummed with low voices as the law team gathered for the morning briefing. The air buzzed with a mix of anticipation and the usual undercurrent of office politics. Rows of sleek black chairs were slowly filling with junior associates, paralegals, and mid-level lawyers, many exchanging glances and quiet comments about the new lead counsel. Whispers had already spread about Amelia Banks' arrival, fueled by Mark Heller's boastful storytelling and the hushed suspicions of those unsure what to make of her understated appearance. Amelia stood near the head of the room, her navy suit crisp despite the morning's hectic journey. She radiated quiet self-assurance, eyes surveying the gathering without any hint of nervousness. Many in the crowd gave her sideways glances, some skeptical, others curious, a few with barely concealed smirks. Minutes later, Margaret Whitman, the senior partner of the firm, entered the room. She was a woman in her mid-50s, tall and commanding, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun and eyes that missed nothing. Her presence silenced the chatter immediately. Margaret's reputation for excellence and her strict standards were well known, and everyone waited with bated breath for her words. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice calm but resolute. "I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce a key new member of our leadership team. Please join me in welcoming Amelia Banks, our new lead counsel for the Corporate Law Division." Heads turned sharply toward Amelia as Margaret gestured toward her. Amelia rose smoothly and gave a subtle nod to the room, her face composed. A shift rippled through the audience. The tone changed from whispered gossip to a tangible tension of expectancy and surprise. The weight of the announcement was unmistakable. Mark Heller, seated near the front, stiffened visibly. His eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed, struggling to process the realization that the woman he had mocked moments before was not only a counsel but the head of the very division his cases depended on. His usually confident demeanor faltered as a murmur of shock passed among the rows near him. He looked toward Amelia, who met his gaze with unflinching calm. There was no hint of malice, only a deep, unwavering professionalism that seemed to sweep away any trace of his earlier disrespect. Margaret continued, "Ms. Banks brings a wealth of experience to our firm, having led major mergers and acquisitions teams internationally and earning several accolades for her strategic acumen. She has a proven track record in transforming legal teams into dynamic, effective units." Her voice softened slightly. "Amelia's reputation precedes her. I have every confidence she will strengthen our department and guide us through challenging cases ahead." Mark remained seated, lips pressed tight, cheeks flushed with the realization that his earlier assumptions had been completely unfounded. Around the room, colleagues exchanged looks. Some eyes held grudging respect, others amusement at Mark's misjudgment. After the formal introduction, Amelia was invited to address the team. She stepped forward effortlessly and said simply, "Thank you all for the welcome. I am eager to work collaboratively with each of you and to build a department where integrity and excellence are paramount." Her voice was calm and steady, full of quiet authority. She glanced briefly at Mark, who was still stunned, then moved back to her seat near Margaret as the room settled into focused attention. The meeting proceeded with a renewed sense of purpose. Later, as the team began to disperse, gossip and speculation swirled less about the mysterious new counsel's background and more about the glaring contrast between her composed leadership and Mark's earlier arrogance. Amelia's measured professionalism marked an unmistakable change in the firm's atmosphere, one where respect would be earned not by fashion or bravado but by skill, dedication, and fairness. Mark stayed behind after the others left the room, staring after Amelia's retreating figure. Embarrassment and a grudging sense of respect warred within him. The comfortable superiority he had earlier basked in was replaced by a dawning realization that appearances could be deceiving and that true authority belonged to those who carried it with substance, not style. The conference room remained unusually quiet after the meeting. Most of the team had dispersed, their whispers replaced by thoughtful silence. Amelia remained standing, composure flawless as the attention settled onto her with renewed focus. Margaret Whitman stepped forward once more, clearing her throat to address the few lingering attendees. "Before we conclude, I want to share a bit more about Amelia's background," Margaret said, her tone steady and respectful. Her career spans over 15 years of distinguished service in corporate law. Prior to joining us, Amelia led the mergers and acquisitions practice at Sterling and Klein in London, transforming what was once a struggling division into one recognized for its efficiency and success. She paused, then added, "Her work on the Grantham-Corbin deal set a new precedent for complex cross-border negotiations, a testament to her strategic insight and relentless drive." As Margaret spoke, Amelia's expression softened slightly. It was rare she allowed such formal praise, yet she accepted it with quiet dignity. Margaret continued, "Beyond her impressive professional achievements, Amelia is known for leading with humility. She has always valued observing how teams operate, not simply measuring outcomes, but also character and collaboration. I believe that's one reason she chose to dress simply today. She wanted to blend in, to see how the firm functions before revealing herself fully." Amelia nodded. "I arrived straight from court this morning," she explained candidly, "and hurried here as fast as possible without a chance to change. More importantly, my attire today is deliberate. I'm interested in seeing the team's authentic dynamics before the usual first impressions take hold. True professionalism is about more than appearances." The room's atmosphere shifted perceptibly. The skeptical glances had given way to attentiveness, and the undercurrent of judgment faded under the weight of her words. This was no newcomer fumbling for acceptance. This was a leader presenting a clear, grounded philosophy. Margaret invited Amelia to speak again, and this time, Amelia addressed the assembled team directly. Her voice was calm but firm, conveying both authority and respect. "My vision for this department is straightforward," she began. "We will uphold the highest standards, not only in legal expertise but in how we treat each other. Success is built on mutual respect, honesty, and hard work, qualities that should define every interaction here, from the boardroom to the break room." She scanned the faces before her. "I believe that every individual's contribution matters. Regardless of title or tenure, each person is part of our collective strength. I ask you to hold yourselves, and me, to those values. We will face complex challenges ahead, and I want us to approach them as a united team." Amelia's steady gaze and sincere tone resonated, quieting any lingering doubts. The group exchanged looks, some contemplative nods confirming her message was received. Mark Heller remained seated, no longer smug or dismissive. For the first time, he studied Amelia as a colleague worthy of consideration, not as an object of ridicule. The embarrassment of his earlier misjudgment still flickered in his eyes, but it was tempered by a grudging respect. When the session ended, group members began gathering their belongings, the energy in the room palpably different than an hour before. Amelia moved toward the door, glancing briefly at Helen Crawford from HR, who silently gave a small, approving nod. Outside the conference room, the hum of office activity resumed, but Amelia's presence lingered as a quiet but firm undercurrent throughout the firm. Her words and demeanor established a new tone, one that would influence how the lawyers worked and interacted. Later, in her newly assigned office, Amelia arranged a few personal items on the minimalist desk, a framed photo of a mountain hike, a well-worn law school yearbook, and settled into the leather chair. Despite the day's chaotic start, she felt the comforting rhythm of focus settling in. Her measured approach was already shifting dynamics within the firm, and she looked forward to steering the team through both the demanding workload and the unspoken cultural challenges. She caught her reflection in the window, a woman slightly rumpled but resolute, a leader by choice rather than appearance. The disheveled jacket no longer felt like a liability but rather a symbol of a different kind of strength, one that measured success in actions and integrity rather than fashion. Amelia's phone buzzed, a message from Helen Crawford: "Welcome aboard. Looking forward to working with you." Amelia smiled faintly and typed back, "Thank you. Let's make this firm stronger together." Outside, the city moved on in its usual rush, but inside Whitman and Associates, something had shifted. A new chapter was beginning, one marked by respect earned through competence and character, not superficial impressions. Amelia Banks was ready to lead. Later that afternoon, Mark Heller found himself summoned to the Human Resources office. The door, polished and bearing the firm's emblem, seemed unusually heavy as he knocked and entered. Inside, Helen Crawford sat upright behind her desk, an expression somewhere between firm and measured. Opposite her, Amelia Banks sat calmly, reviewing a set of documents, her demeanor composed and professional. Mark swallowed hard, the earlier confidence now replaced by a growing sense of unease. Helen spoke first. "Mark, we've received reports concerning your conduct this morning, specifically, your interaction with Ms. Banks." Mark shifted in his chair, avoiding eye contact initially but then nervously glancing at Amelia. "I didn't mean any harm. I just assumed she was a new assistant or someone junior. I was trying to lighten the mood." Helen's gaze was steady. "Your assumptions led to unprofessional behavior. In this firm, respect is not optional. Mocking colleagues based on appearance or making unfounded assumptions disrupts the team environment and is unacceptable." Amelia looked up from her papers and met Mark's eyes directly. "I understand that first impressions can be misleading. But professionalism demands that we treat everyone with the respect they deserve. Your comments today crossed that line." Mark nodded slowly, recognizing the gravity in her tone. "I realize I was out of line. It won't happen again." Helen continued, "Given the circumstances, we are placing you on a formal warning, and you will attend a professional conduct workshop next week. Additionally, you will be removed from a few high-profile cases temporarily to reflect on your approach." Mark's shoulders slumped, but something in his expression shifted from resistance to acceptance. "Understood." The meeting ended with a firm handshake from Helen and a brief nod from Amelia. As Mark left the room, he passed through the firm's corridors with noticeably more subdued steps, the echoes of his earlier swagger now replaced by a quieter, reflective gait. In the days that followed, the atmosphere around the firm changed rapidly. Colleagues who had previously whispered amused remarks now approached Amelia with genuine respect and support. Her leadership style, direct but fair, firm yet approachable, began to resonate. She listened carefully during team meetings, encouraged collaboration, and demonstrated a keen ability to unravel complex legal problems with clarity and precision. One afternoon, Mark approached Amelia in the hallway near the firm's expansive kitchen. The room buzzed faintly with the sounds of clinking cups and quiet conversation. He cleared his throat nervously. "Ms. Banks," he began, voice hesitant but sincere. "I wanted to apologize again for my behavior on your first day. It was unprofessional, and I hope to learn from it. I respect your leadership." Amelia smiled, a brief but genuine expression. "Thank you, Mark. I appreciate your apology. We all have moments we regret. I'm more interested in how we grow from them." Their interaction was brief but meaningful. It wasn't a complete reconciliation, but it was a step toward mutual respect. As days turned into weeks, Amelia's influence expanded. Cases that had languished found resolution under her guidance. Junior lawyers found themselves motivated and valued in ways they hadn't before. Whitman and Associates began to feel less like a rigid hierarchy and more like a collaborative team. On a bright morning, Amelia walked purposefully through the marble-floored corridors she now frequented with authority. Her posture was upright, her steps confident. Colleagues greeted her with nods and smiles instead of whispers and sideways glances. Passing the glass-walled conference rooms, she glimpsed Mark through the open door, focused intently on his work. Their eyes met briefly, and Amelia offered an acknowledging nod. Mark returned it with a small but respectful smile. The firm was changing, led by a woman who had arrived in simple attire but with commanding presence, not because of how she looked, but because of who she was. Amelia Banks was firmly in command.